This is my final video. It is a week until I go back to Duke. It's been about a week and a half since I finally stopped traveling. It took me a while to decide what I want to say and how I want to structure this video. I really am still not sure what I'm saying. I have my little page of notes, but this topic is huge. It's been it has been a very meaningful and interesting, and I mean that in not as like, oh, that's interesting, just it has been very interesting trying to understand all of these different issues, trying to just grasp the vast number of different ways these issues interact with each other online. So it's not just the internet, it's not just women in STEM, it's not just speech, it's speech and shame and privacy and feminism and trolls and hate and ethics, and everything kind of mix in, and we're all trying to figure out what it means to be online, I think. What does it mean for me to be a citizen of the internet? Or how do I exercise my responsibilities? What does it mean for these companies to be online and to be providing services? It's so big, and even though the internet has been around for about as long as I have, we still don't know, and we're still figuring it out. After the 10 weeks of this project, I have a few conclusions, not many, because the topic is so diverse. The internet is huge. Free speech is a massive topic. Free speech and privacy is an even bigger topic. So my conclusions are very limited. But I'm okay with that. There's still more work to be done. There are still people who are working on these issues, and I'm still learning. The first conclusion I have is the internet is just a platform. It's a platform for interactions between individuals, business interaction, personal interactions, social, at every level. It's just another platform. It's not anything that's different. The way we use it is differently, which is why, our parents might not understand which button to click, but that's okay. It's still essentially the same thing we've dealt with for the past centuries of human interactions. It's nothing new. The quantity of interactions has massively increased because of the internet. Now we can talk to presidents and state leaders and our favorite authors and things like that, as long as they're living online. Actually, even if they're not living with parody Twitter accounts. The interactions have increased, but they're still fundamentally the same thing. If we can take that step back and stop being afraid of the internet, that might help solve so many problems. We also need to think about this notion that everything online right now is mostly public. Emails, Facebook messages can be private, but for the most part, what we do online is public. This challenges our notions of privacy that we have in the States. We need to start thinking a little more proactively as we use the internet, almost before we post anything. Do I want this to be in the public discourse? This is what I talked about in video 8. Yeah, video 8. We need to be more aware of this and practice this awareness more consistently and engage in these dialogues of why do I want this? Why do I want to share this with the public discourse? Should I share it? Do I want this to be private? What does it mean to be private? What information does it mean to be private? It's this weird balance. There's a lot of power in having this massive public discourse, but there's also some danger. What happens without the privacy of being able to close your door and have a conversation? Because you can log off, but given the amount of times that we now use Twitter for interactions, or Facebook, or LinkedIn, and all these different networking sites, what type of interactions are private? And when do we expect these interactions to be private? There are questions that I can't answer right now, but I think they're questions that everybody needs to be asking themselves. The other conclusion I came to is we need to start treating people like people online, and I'm guilty of not doing this. When I was working on this project, I saw the trolls as trolls, which I narrowed them down to this one dimension of themselves, thinking that's all they have. These trolls don't have friends, they don't have family, they don't they live in a basement, just defined them by this one dimension. And similarly, I'm assuming I got defined as the angry feminist. I hate being defined by one dimension. I hate being treated like I have this one aspect of my life and that's all I am. I'm just the angry feminist on YouTube or on Twitter or whatever. And the irony is that I treat the trolls the same way. I want them to treat me like I'm a real human being, but I won't treat them like they're a real human being. It's so hard to sit there and look at these words on the screen and think that that's another person. That's another human being. They have thoughts, they have feelings, they have relationships and jobs and all sorts of different things that make them what we can, that humanizes them. It's easier just to think that they're just a troll. And even think about that. We don't even call them bad people. We call them trolls. We make them into this little under the bridge monster thing. So how can I expect other people to not define me by one characteristic if I'm defining everybody else by one characteristic too? We can take a step back and try to tap into that compassion that remembers other people are human online too. Even if they disagree with you, even if they're saying something horrible or mean and hateful and threatening your life, they are human. Now, there are lines where if they cross, that is still illegal. So yes, they are human breaking the law. However, we forget, we just don't want to even consider their humanity. And as much as I want my humanity online, I should at least start treating other people like they have humanity. I think one of the best ways for me to practice this is to shut up, which is why I think this will be my last video. I might get to Duke in like 2 weeks and find the most interesting story about what's happening on the internet, and you'll see me again in 2 weeks. But for now, I want to be quiet and I want to listen. I want to listen to what the feminists are saying. I want to try to understand what the men's rights activists are saying, or what trolls, or I want to try to think of how I can be a person online and still recognize everybody's humanity. So when I look at people's online accounts, I don't think, oh, that's one person, that's their characteristic. I think that's a full person. That is a human. It's easy to do this on Facebook because theoretically, we know everybody we're friends with on Facebook. So you don't see the person with their profile picture and you think, oh, that's the nerd. You think of who they are as a person. You remember your experiences with them. Maybe we can try to practice that with the strangers we know online too, even if they are strangers we don't like. So those are my conclusions. The internet is a platform. We're all human, and we need to listen more.